are listening to the Solar Panel, the Phoenix Suns Show.
Hey, good morning, Suns fans. Welcome to another edition of the Suns Solar Panel. This morning, we're going with the 9 a.m. time slot, so I'm glad people picked up on that and are joining us. Love to have you guys participate in the chat this morning. We're going to make this a good live show, a recap of the Phoenix Suns' first 5 games in which, for some odd reason, they look like the team we've watched the last 2 seasons instead of the Walking Dead we kind of half expected to see. Joining me today and making comments on this team that we weren't sure what we were going to find this season. Joining me is, first of all, my primary main partner who's been with me 99% of the time in the last year and a half is Zona Hoops. How's it going, man?
Not too bad. Just wondering where all those vibe analysts are at, preseason with those crazy takes. Looks like the vibes
even
are
through
just
the
fine.
first half of the Dallas game, there was a lot of vibe analysts out there on Twitter, and those same ones have gone a little quiet.
Yeah, I don't have a PhD in vibes, but I think everything looks pretty fine right now. So, doing well. 4-1, great start to the season.
Yeah, and also joining us on the panel this morning, Jake, a.k.a. Fallen Founder. How's it going, man?
Ooh, you see that scorching hot start by the Phoenix Suns? Careful, it's so bright, just might blind you if you look too close.
Oh, my God. Oh, my.
Also, I do hope we can talk about playing 2 bigs together very early on, Dave, because I need a little bit of a wake-up this morning, and if we can get you going early, that'll help me out.
I think I'm losing the argument. Well, so far I'm winning the argument because the Suns have done nothing, but I think I'm losing the argument in the court of public opinion. I was just DMing with Mark Schindler, who's a really good basketball analyst, and we're going to get him on the next week or 2 on the show to talk about the Suns. And he's like, love everything I see, except the one hole is a large human to play next to DeAndre Ayton to grab more rebounds. I'm like, oh my God, maybe I won't have this dude on the show. He knows what he's talking about, but maybe he doesn't. No, I'm just kidding, Mark. We're going to have you on really soon. But anyway, I'm so far the winner because the Suns have done nothing on that end. So I get to watch guys like Cam Johnson be a bowling pin and Mikal Bridges, snake himself around and sometimes be actually Damian Lee played power forward a little bit last night. And I just had to smile a little bit. All right. So let's get this show started. We got 4 quarters of things to talk about. We always have a 4-quarter show. In our first quarter, we're going to do a quick recap of what's happened. And I don't want to wear everybody out with my voice. So actually, you know what? We never do this. We're going to do this today. Jake, you've got the show notes in front of you. Give us a recap of the Suns' first 5 games.
Ooh, all right. Well, an opening spectacular comeback win over Dallas after being down substantial amounts, which I then took Suns money line at halftime. So
that's right.
Remember your betting apps, ladies and gentlemen. And then a tough
DraftKings promo code TBPN. Download the DraftKings app. Man, Jake, that was a nice drop there. Well, download the DraftKings app. New customers can use promo code TBPN and get $200 in free bets. Boom.
It's not quite the Manscaped ad that you used to do, Dave, but we'll play through that one. That was a thing of beauty.
I have no idea why we never sold anything.
Yes, but tough 2-point overtime loss in Portland, which I think a lot of Suns fans, which not a shock, but we're saying some very questionable calls in that one. And we were seeing that up until recently, the Blazers were undefeated, so they kind of got off to a hot start. We
undefeated until Dame Lillard went down, actually.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
We wrecked Operation Load Management, aka the LA Clippers, 112-95. Very impressive. That was in LA. And then the defending champs, we helped Klay Thompson experienced the locker rooms early for his first time in his career. That had to be a very fun time for him to kind of see what goes on back there when not everyone else is with him. And then, shorthanded Pelicans, which we also became shorthanded during the game, and we still pulled it off. So, wow, am I starting to get a little excited about this bench too? I mean, I believe the last episode I was on, I was like, oh, clearly that's the biggest concern. It might still be, but I was very impressed with how they handled things last night.
So,
and that's
what do
the
you
recap,
think?
right?
That great recap, man.
Okay.
Well done. I agree. The bench has been awesome, and that's been the hugest surprise to me. Just the resurgence of Payne and Torrey Craig just being serviceable again is huge. Especially with Crowder out, they needed Craig to step up, and he's been awesome. So he's remembered how to shoot, and just the way he attacks like the offensive rebounds, like that's exactly what the Suns need right now. So, if this bench can sustain this, or even some like 75% of this, then they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, you've got Ted Lubin saying that campaign turning back the clock. Fortunately, 2 years, not one. Yeah. It's like one of those old-timey time machine shows where you have no idea where you're going to land. You just kind of get into a time warp. Luckily, Cam dropped into 2021, spring of 2021, and hopefully he never hits his little watch again to change his time, because that's the best period of his career, and he's back to that. He's playing really, really good, and that whole bench unit is really excellent. That whole bench unit is fun to watch, because you know what I've been noticing, especially on Friday night against the Clippers, because DeAndre Ayton went out after 8 minutes with a rolled ankle, and you've got Devin Booker had his worst shooting night of the season, and Chris Paul is still being just the I'm chilling, watching everything, and then I'm just going to make some cool passes, and then the game will be over. He's in that mode right now. You really need the bench to step up, and what I've noticed is this bench makes me think of the bench from 2 years ago. I know you've got Keiko mentioning in the chat that maybe it's the 2010 bench. That's a long time ago. You're right. That 2010 bench also sometimes led by young Goran Dragic at 22-year-old Goran Dragic and Jared Dudley and Channing Frye and guys like that. That was great to watch. But even more recently, that 2020, 2021 bench, if you guys remember, the starters were still trying to gel with the new Chris Paul addition to the team, and they were regularly needing the bench to get them leads. And that's exactly what happened on Friday night. The bench got the Suns the lead in the first half, and then the Suns stretched out the lead into a 10-point lead in the second half. I love watching that. Two of the characters are the same, at least Torrey Craig for half that season, that season, and then Cam Payne for that whole season, and the rest is kind of changed up, but it's the same feel. They bust their ass on every play.
Well, and there's a confidence about it, right? I mean, yeah. I think last year we saw Landry Shamet kind of, he'd go through a couple of droughts and then he'd start hesitating on his shots. Cam Payne would kind of do that old Stephon Marbury drive to the basket and just toss it up and hope it dropped in, the old teardrops, but his were much uglier. Starbury, yeah. But, oh, my gosh, last night, Landry looked like Mr. Fundamentals. I don't know if you guys remember the play, but Jonas with the Pelicans, he was on him right at the basket, pump fake, got him jumping out of the arena, and just reverse laid it in. I mean, it was like, whoa, Landry, you had that in your game? I just thought you drive, flail, complain you didn't get a call.
Last season, Landry Shamet didn't juke a single player once.
Yeah.
Never.
It was so good to see.
He had a straight line to the basket, or he passed it off. That was it. He juked out two guys on the same play last night, doubling his output for the last year since he signed that contract with the Suns.
Yeah, and my favorite. Go ahead. I was just gonna say my favorite early season stat so far, just like we all predicted. Jock Landale is averaging more points per game than Chris Paul. That's just hilarious to me, and I had to point that one out. But I'll let you continue on what you were talking about, Jake. Oh,
no. So, I mean, it's just the confidence level, right? Cam Payne, Shamet. when I was very nervous that this was going to be a team that as soon as the starters come off, we're all going to like hold your breath, see how long you can hold it, because the lead is going to start to come back down.
Mm-hmm.
And Booker's going to have to run out and have to go play hero ball, 38, 42 minutes a game to try and get the lead back up. And I was wondering, oh gosh, we're going to need that next guy that can go out and make a basket. This bench unit, Campaign usually it's kind of him and his reactions that kind of let me know how much fun they're having as a unit, and they're coming in and they're having fun. Like Lee takes those shots and I think they're going in. Shamet all of a sudden might actually have me thinking he can make baskets. Jock Landale I thought was really going to be a poor man's Frank Kaminsky, and I think he has largely surpassed
rich man's
expectations. Yes. Frank is a poor jock. He's a poor jock.
Oh, Frank the poor jock. That's a good nickname. Yeah, Frank, I haven't checked on how he's doing in Atlanta. I love Frank. Great guy. Really great guy to have on the sidelines and all that. But I prefer Jock Landale. Jock seems like, and Keiko, you're right. I forgot Lou Amundsen from that 2010 bench group.
Yes.
Lou.
Basically, Jock Landale is so far the best version of every hyperactive, pale-skinned forward center that the Suns have employed off the bench. I mean, you've got a lot of those, but he's definitely the best of them so far. I love it. And what's just incredible is that he was cast off by not only the Spurs but also the Hawks in the offseason as just an extra guy. He was included by the Spurs, sending him in that DeJounte Murray deal to make salaries match, whereas most of his contract is non-guaranteed. In fact, to make the deal work, you have to trade enough guaranteed salary, not just non-guaranteed, I guess. And Jock got increased to a $47,000 guarantee. I mean, I feel like I work for the state of Arizona, so my job is almost guaranteed. I feel like I have more guaranteed salary than Jock Landale. But he's obviously he'll exceed that. He's probably already exceeded it because those guys make so much money, even at minimum wage, per game, per day. He gets a per diem, so he's made more than that. But his minimum guarantee was only $47,000, and he got traded twice in the offseason. And the Suns have now found a gem of that dude, because not only is he great, he's got great hands around the basket, great touch finishing. He actually plays pretty good defense. I mean, I thought Jonas Valanciunas was just going to body him, and so did Monty. That's why he played Bismack Biyombo, pulled him out of the grave and put him up for 30 minutes again in one of these games. Bismack, we have to talk about him in a little bit. But Jock Landale actually held his own against Jonas. And Jonas, I thought, was going to dominate the Suns with 20 second-half rebounds after Ayton went down. So let's give a quick recap of why we're talking about Landale and why I want to talk about Bismack. DeAndre Ayton came up lame again. He landed after taking a jumper. His foot landed on Jonas Valanciunas in a way that probably should have been a foul. They're supposed to call those fouls, but for some reason it's only a foul if the dude shooting lands on your foot outside the three-point line. But inside the three-point line, anything can happen. It happened with Devin Booker last week. It's happened with DeAndre Ayton. It also happened to Mikal Bridges in the first half too, but he shook it off. He was able to play through it. The dude's got something in his veins. I don't know what it is. Even he laughs about it, how quick he heals. But DeAndre Ayton did not heal. He finished with 8 minutes played, didn't come back out from the bench the rest of the game, although he did walk out under his own power without a boot, I believe, at the end after the game is over. But we know the Suns' track record. When do you guys think, put your hand, what's your prediction on the next time we're going to see DeAndre Ayton play a game, even if it's day-to-day with an ankle issue? Zona.
These injuries, I feel like they're not going to say anything, first of all. They're going to give us bare minimum information per usual. And I think he's going to be out for probably a week. I would say he'll miss anywhere from 3 to 4 games. And in those 3 to 4 games, we're going to get all the hot takes that Jock should start or Bismack should start and take Ayton's spot. We did this last year with Frank and and
Yeah.
Dario closing games.
Oh
and,
God, don't give me. Oh yeah. Frank definitely stepping in. Okay, I thought you were going to talk
Yeah.
about Frank's injury recovery time. Don't do that.
Oh no. I think yeah, this is like a 1 to 2 week type deal. I think he'll be back soon. They'll probably be a little cautious with him because with bigs, you don't want to rush him too quick with anything like ankle or foot related.
Yep.
You don't want to rush him back. So
Right,
I
because they
definitely think he'll stay.
compensate. That's what happens.
Exactly.
Is
And then
you
that
compensate
causes
and
other
then-
injuries
Yep.
or potentially. So
Mhm.
yeah.
I'm guessing 2 weeks. I'm guessing 2 calendar weeks, which is 3 to 5 games. This is too early in the season. Like Damian Lillard the other night, and the Suns are not alone, guys. Damian Lillard the other night, he pulled his calf muscle a little bit after scoring 40 plus in back-to-back games to help Portland get to 4-0 on the season. He pulls his calf. He sits out the rest of the game. After the game, he goes, barely even hurts. I'm sure I'll be fine. Now, the next injury report is 1 to 2 weeks. They're going to reevaluate him. It's too early in the season to care about how many handful of games a guy's going to miss, especially the way it's so early in the season. Why does it not matter? Because other teams are also sitting their guys with minor injuries because they don't want it to be season-long things. So, look, you're probably not going to see Ayton for 2 weeks, and that's okay. The only thing the only person in the world it's not really okay is Ayton himself, because it happened a year ago when Ayton got hurt and he missed almost the entire month of December. When Ayton got hurt, I remember listening to one of those national pods. It might have been the Dunker Spot. Yeah, it was the Dunker Spot. And Nekias Duncan said, you know who's on the outside, on the edge of potentially making the All-Star game because of injuries to like Anthony Davis and guys like that? He said DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton might have been an All-Star reserve through early December of last year, but then he missed most of December with Nixon and nooks and crannies, as we say, and then he was totally out of the conversation. If this happens again, and he also had that 25 game suspension in year 2, he's always missed early season time, and every time what that does is it just takes you out of thoughts. Nobody's thinking about you for All-Star reserve consideration. The coaches don't have to play against you. I guarantee you the DA we saw the first week of the season is a DA that every coach has to scheme against because of the way he's being included in the offense in both halves, right? That was a new development that they're actually scheming for him offensively in the second half of these games. Coaches pick reserves, and they pick the guys that they have to struggle to beat and to scheme against, and you have to come up with a defensive scheme to stop the guy. DA was becoming that guy. Now, hell, if he misses a few weeks, he might be out of the conversation again. So I feel like the only person it hurts is DA, but that's okay. He probably doesn't care. I mean, he does care, but in the big scheme of things, he's gonna want to play as many games as possible. Long John Silver, Dario should have gotten at least a minute. So let's talk about the backup bigs. You got Jock Landale, who is like the best possible combination so far of a Frank Kaminsky plus Lou Amundsen plus even Aaron Baines. I mean, he's been great as the backup center, and he deserves every minute he's getting. He's done nothing to make the Suns feel like he can't play all the backup center minutes. Then when DA goes out, you need somebody with a little bit of size and a little bit of speed and a little bit of, the ability to rise from the dead and play like you've been playing full time for weeks, which is Bismack Biyombo. They had to have that. So who's the odd man out? And Biyombo, by the way, had a double-double on Friday night.
He played
11
amazing.
points, 13 rebounds. Played amazing. Guess who doesn't get off the bench? Dario Saric. I do feel a little bad for Dario.
Yeah, and this takes me back to that piece I wrote on Brightside just about how good I felt about the Suns' big man rotation heading into the season. Like losing McGee to me was really Bismack can fill that role pretty easily, and Dallas fans already are not too happy with that McGee contract early on. Just a quick update on how they're feeling about that.
Deal. Yeah. JaVale McGee is getting owned, by the way, defensively because he's great at the rim, but he's not so great anywhere outside the 3-foot mark.
It's an experience. Yeah, we know that by now. It's a roller coaster ride with him. But yeah, Bismack filling in for that role, and then you have Jock basically taking what Frank's role was last season, and Dario's just kind of the odd man out right now. But I think he'll get his chance. Like, you know, it's a long season. DA is probably going to miss some time now too. So I'm sure he'll get an opportunity at some point and they'll need him. But I love our big man rotation right now. I think it's, you know, obviously Ayton has to be healthy for it to be at full strength, but it's just, they have the perfect amount of depth and like versatility.
Man, I love it. I love it that everybody wants to free Dario and all that. I hope y'all don't think it's like a conspiracy theory of some sort that he's being held back. He's just getting outplayed. Sorry, guys. It just is. Now, if there's another injury, the Suns have the deepest center rotation, as you say, Zona. Dario can step in and he'll be effective. In fact, the bench unit that I'm reminded of is the one 2 years ago that was led by Dario and Campaign 2 years ago with Torrey Craig in the second half of that season. We do think that, Sundress. Yeah, okay. It's no conspiracy, man. He's just getting beaten out. That Dario is an effective player, absolutely. But so are Biz and so is Jock Landale. And in fact, Jock is playing really, really well. You guys, the Suns are, and Zona put this in our show notes, and we haven't mentioned it yet. If you look at NBA.com, that's where you got the ratings, right? NBA.com?
Yeah.
Suns are 4th in offense, 4th in defense. Yes, it's only been 5 games. Someone's got a drone flying overhead or something. 4th in offense, 4th in defense, 1st in net rating. They're the only team after 5 games who are both top 5 in both offense and defense. Guess what? Kind of reminds me of last year. Kind of reminds me of the year before last. In fact, just a week and a half after we thought we might see the Walking Dead out there, and then they showed it to us in the first half of the Dallas game, looking like the Walking Dead, this Phoenix Suns team. Is it possible that this is the best Suns version yet, or is it not possible? Zona, you first.
I think it's possible, but a lot of that hinges on what version of Mikal and DA we get, and Cam, all these young guys, and Booker, of course, as well. Because if we get their best versions and they really take a leap this season, then I think their ceiling is a little bit higher than it was, even with that, you know, NBA Finals team and a 64-win team. It feels crazy to say, but I think the ceiling is higher if those young guys really can continue to grow. And you know, most of them are either just hitting their prime or not even in their prime yet. So I don't think it's a crazy statement at all.
We keep hearing all this noise coming off.
Yeah,
He's got.
They're coming to get me. Clearly, they've sent the
birds.
dogs and the drones. This is bad, man.
You got put on the.
Yeah, let me keep going. I'm gonna close the window.
Now he's gonna get all hot, and we're gonna see him sweating. Just see it now.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. So it's look, you're right. It does depend on how these guys continue playing, and it's only been a small sample size. I totally get it. But this is the best we've seen of DA. This is the best we've seen of Mikal. I think Mikal has been fabulous this year. On Friday, he was great offensively. Earlier, the rest of the season, been great rebounding, which he hadn't been doing before. He was averaging 7 rebounds a game coming into Friday night. It's just, I didn't know it was so wild in Iowa. So says Jay. He's in the jungle. He's not in Iowa anymore. You're not in Iowa anymore. Yeah, it's interesting because we could be seeing the best of Devin Booker, who we haven't even talked about yet. And while Chris Paul might be declining a little bit, he's declining in a very healthy way, like in a way that allows other guys to shine and grow, that need to shine and grow. And then the bench. This bench, we thought this might be the worst bench the Suns have had in a long time. And it's quite possible right now anyway. They're playing like the best. Not saying they will for 82 games, but they're playing like the best bench we've seen in a couple of years.
Yeah, and going back to what you said about Mikal, 27 points. He was everywhere on defense, just a real pain in the ass for the Pelicans. And whenever he's that active offensively too, with all the cutting and finishing, like he had that one where I think it was Payne passed it to him on a cut and he just flipped it up right over Valanciunas Like that finish was insane. Like if we can get that out of him consistently, and like it doesn't have to be every night with him on offense, but if we can get that more frequently, like, we're going to start talking about Mikal as an all-star here pretty soon.
Mikal, the problem with all-star, the reason Mikal, quote unquote, only got $21 million a year compared to offensive players like Jordan Poole getting $35 million a year and Tyler Hero getting $32 million a year is the shooting. Yeah. Points per game. And Mikal's never going to lead you in points per game. He's going to average 12 to 14 a game. Young Scotty, Darth Boyda puts in the show in the comments. It's definitely a do-it-all guy. I think he's almost not quite. I was talking to a friend of mine last night. It's like similar to impact-wise to a Sean Marion from the 7 seconds or less. Obviously, he doesn't put up the counting stats, and that's what got Sean Marion into the All-Star games for several years, was because he had 20 points a night and not just the 12 that Mikal does. So it's okay. Mikal doesn't need to be an all-star. He's under the Suns contract with the Suns for 4 more years at least. He is pretty damn good, and he doesn't look like he ever wants to leave. No, he's doing great. But is he an all-star as far as like one of the best teammates in the league, and every team would want him as a starter on their team, one of their top 3 or 4 players? Absolutely. And that's been great. So best of DA, best of Mikal, best of Booker, potentially best of Cam Johnson. I mean, this has been a great start to the season. We predicted how the Suns were going to be this next week, like this past week. And the feeling was probably 0-3 if we're lucky, 1-2. And the Suns went 3-0. They beat all the teams. So we've got to be feeling good about it. It's okay to be feeling good about this team right now. They'll probably go through slumps, but I think one thing we know for sure is that this is the same team we've seen the last 2 years, and they probably are going to finish with the top 2 or 3 records in the West. Let's take a second to actually talk about the best player on the Phoenix Suns. And he wasn't that impressive on Friday night, but he has been incredibly impressive this season. Devin Booker. What's the one thing that stands out to you that's different with Devin Booker this year that makes him maybe more of a threat and more of a challenge for defenders? Jake.
For me, I think it's that he's more consistent. I felt like last year it was, okay, I'm going to go off in the first, and then when you guys need me back in the fourth, I'm going to try and close out the game because I want to push you guys to do it in the second and the third. Because they finally realized, hey, Chris Paul shouldn't have to dribble it up every single time. Mikal and Booker can actually do that. I think you're seeing a lot more kind of, he might not get the assist and he might not get the basket, but a lot of it is being run through him to start the plays, or he's almost always getting to touch it in any offensive possession. So I think there's a consistency to him that is kind of, he's a threat to do something every time he's on the court, which is kind of that. I mean, a lot of people know about his connection with Kobe and the be legendary type mentality he's got, and I think that was kind of Kobe's game, right? A lot of it ran through Kobe, especially after Shaq left in LA. And so Booker has kind of, I think, taken that, next step of, okay, this is my team. I'm running the show. We've got some tremendous people to back me up, but he needs to be more than just first and fourth quarter book. This is my game. I mean, he's been playing. Besides, last night's game was a bad game for him, and I still think that he could have, if we needed to, turn it around pretty easily.
Yeah,
what do you think?
The word that stands out for me is just like more calculated. Like everything he's doing is like with a purpose, and like double teams that are coming at him are not phasing him. He's making the right reads quick and just like under control, and it looks like the game's just like almost slowed down for him a little bit more, which. It's something in the playoffs. I think he probably did a lot of work on these, getting out of these double teams and like hitting the right angles on the high post or hitting cutters or setting up that hockey assist where you're making the pass that leads to the pass where someone gets a good look. So I think Cam Johnson being in the starting lineup also kind of helps with the spacing on that end too. Defenses respect him more than Crowder, and he cuts off the ball and he can move. So I think that's opened up a lot of easier looks for not only just for Booker, but just the entire offense. So I think this starting five has the highest upside, and they made the right move to demote Jae, and I think you're starting to see it. It's going to have an impact across the board. But I think Booker specifically, you give him, more room to operate, it's just game over.
So you brought up Jae Crowder. So let's take a second to do a sidebar on Jae Crowder. So on during Tuesday night's blowout of the Golden State Warriors, that was nice to see, a blowout of the Golden State Warriors. Tuesday night's blowout. Chris Haynes, sideline reporter on TNT, said he had a talk with Jae Crowder, and Jae Crowder produced a statement that says, I don't know, basically paraphrasing, that's BS, saying that I'm holding out because I want to be a starter. What do you think about that?
Translation. I really want to go somewhere. I want to get traded, but now all these teams think I want to start. No one wants me if I'm demanding to start. So I'm going to feed this report to you, Chris. Please tell everyone I would just want to get traded. So
yeah, at first he was okay with the first for 3 months. He was okay with the talk, the rhetoric that he wanted to start because he wanted to go to a contender who would start him. Now, no one wants that. And so now he's changing his tune and saying, that's okay if I don't start. Look, man, I don't hold it. Okay. I hold his decision against him that he's not even playing for the team that's guaranteed him $10 million this year. That I hold against him. What I don't hold against him is his desire for security. The dude wanted a contract extension beyond this season. He's 32, going on 33 years old. He wants the PJ Tucker parachute, right? He wants the PJ Tucker career where he just gets to sign good contracts through his late 30s. I totally understand the desire for that. What I don't understand is him just sitting out and and now he's blaming the Suns, saying the Suns are telling me to stay home. Well, I guarantee you James Jones didn't just sit down in June and say, you know what? I don't ever want to see Jae Crowder on this team again, and I don't care if anybody replaces him. I guarantee you James Jones did not say that. I guarantee you Monty Williams did not say that. He did something with his position to make the Suns go, you know what? You're right. Go ahead. Stay away from the team if you're going to be that way. It's the if you're going to be that way. So Jae did this to himself. He's trying to rehab his image a little bit. You know what I'm seeing, though? I'm looking around the league, and I'm seeing a lot of teams that could use a Jae Crowder, and they're finding out in their first, probably after 20 games, they're going to realize, you know what? We're not winning jack shit without another guy who can be in our forward rotation. You know who could really use a Jae Crowder? They don't have any assets for it, though. It's the Brooklyn Nets. You know who else could really use a Jae Crowder? Cleveland Cavaliers. You know, teams that need one more wing in their rotation who can just absorb 30 minutes a night, make a third of his threes, and you know, the Suns could use him too, for sure. But the Suns have proven that they don't need a malcontent on the team, and it's okay not to have him.
Yeah, and the Nets need a lot more
top 5
than Jae
defense
Crowder.
and offense.
They need Jesus. That roster construction is just horrible. I mean, we're counting down the days until KD requests out.
Yeah,
again.
I know, right? KD is going to request out again. He's actually, somebody said verbally, and I haven't looked it up, but somebody said on a podcast, KD leads the league in negative plus minus.
Oh, wow. I think we should send Crowder to the Lakers for their 2 first-round draft picks coming up later in the future. I mean, he'd immediately become their top 3-point shooter. What an embarrassment you are, Lakers fans. That team, you cannot hit the broadside of a barn from outside.
That is an embarrassment. And what's hilarious, though, turning embarrassment into a punchline, they don't even have their first-round pick this year.
Yes, that is hilarious.
They could start over, tank the season, sit LeBron, sit Anthony Davis, win 10 games, which they probably be close to that anyway with those guys. They're 0-5 this year already. And get that number 1 or number 2 pick. Well, guess what? The Pelicans are licking their chops as payoff for Anthony Davis. Now, that is the ultimate I will sell my soul for a championship move to acquire Anthony Davis because they got themselves a bubble chip. Is it worth what they're going through now to have won the championship?
Oh yeah, no, I still would have sold my soul for the chip at this point, though, too. But it's different, though, too. I think when if you're the Celtics or the Lakers, and the amount of banners you have hanging up, you're like, oh yeah, I remember that specific one. If you're a Phoenix Suns fan, you don't have any. So would you bomb the 5 to 6 years after you win a title, but guarantee yourself winning a title? Oh yeah, no, and I think that this franchise, after the terrible decade of awfulness that we went through, yeah, I think we would do that as well. We'd make that Malthusian deal.
Yeah, I mean, I would do it for a real title, but for a bubble tournament, I don't know about that one. It's
hey, you know what? If the Suns had won the bubble tournament, we'd be calling it a real title.
Yeah, absolutely. Hell yeah. I mean, but look, you just have to give Lakers fans crap for that because it's the 1 year you win a championship like that, everyone's going to it's going to have that asterisk, and that's going to stick around for a long time. So it's kind of funny that that's the one that they won to sacrifice, for the next, being miserable pretty much for the next 10 years. So if the Pelicans did win the draft lottery and got Wembanyama, that would be a terrifying team. So on one hand, I'm like, I don't know if I want a dynasty.
Even
in the
Scoot.
West. Yeah, either one. If they get a top 2 pick, the West is looking like it's going to be going through the Pelicans the next 10 years. So that sucks. But the Lakers fans getting their hearts ripped out would just be incredible.
And
Darth Vader with the joke of the day. I love it. I'm going to use this. I'm going to be Jae Crowder for Halloween. My friend's having a party. I won't be there.
Quick correction. I said Malthusian bargain. What I clearly meant was Faustian bargain. That's why you guys tuned in for these morning shows for that philosophical discussion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
For a second there, I thought you said Faucian bargain, but we're not going to go down that way. Yes. Okay. So Jae Crowder doing the Halloween trick where he just doesn't show up. It's a trick.
Well, all right, I'll be Eric Bledsoe, John. So,
the thing with Jay is I'm curious who is advising him, because like you pointed out, Dave, the security aspect of it totally makes sense to me, but he was never that caliber of player that could have made that sort of a demand. Whereas we thought Kevin Durant could have actually said to the Nets, hey, I'm out. You will trade me to my favorite team. Crowder is saying, I'm out and you will trade me and I'm going to go somewhere else. He hasn't, said to a specific team or anything, but he's a good role player, but he's never had that kind of influence, I would say, in the association for any reason. So right. I don't know who was like, you know what? Hey, yeah. I mean, what is he making? $10 million? Like, yeah. You hold out. You're worth so much to so many people. It's like, I mean, you were the worst guy in our starting 5. You declined. Your defense, which is what you're supposed to be known for, was not there in the playoffs. His 3-point shooting is very streaky. I like Jay. I think he'd be a good contributor. It's not going to be on this team anymore, and appreciate his services. Helping us get to on the title run 2 years ago. But man, that's one of those classic deals where you can't take everyone's advice and just follow it, because sometimes other people will just say that was a really bad idea, Jay. Yeah, you've got a team that is on fire right now without you. It says a lot.
Exactly. Michael Lockhart, Cold Jim Crowder, Darth Voida, YMCA J, absolutely. And then you've got the Keiko, I won't be there is equal to I don't want to be here. From the salon days, Eric Bledsoe, to which Darth Voida, who's on a roll this morning. Eric Bledsoe don't want to be in America. He signed with the Shanghai Sharks.
Didn't he just get arrested too or something? Or I saw a headline pop up.
God, I don't know.
Like the next day.
Like in China?
No. It was here. Yeah, it was
that's why he's in Shanghai, because he doesn't want to go to jail.
I don't want to be here in the States. Yeah.
He just leaves the country.
Yeah, but no, to Jake's point, yeah, Jay, I like Jay. I have nothing against him. I think he just thinks he's better than he is and got probably bad advice from someone. And, the highlight video is really what kind of did it for me. I was like, all right, come on, dude. Like, You need a
He's a proud man.
reality check, and I think
Anyone
he's
who can type in all caps all the time is a proud man.
He needs to sit down, make a spicy hot salsa, bring it back to the team, say it's free for life to his teammates and coaches, and just come back, and we'll forgive him slowly. But we'll figure out a role for him to come off the bench and be a part of a winning franchise, and then he can probably still be traded. But wouldn't you rather, to try and get yourself traded, show off that highlight reel in real time on a team that is winning successfully, increasing your value at the same time? If anything, I think the Suns have just demonstrated that now they can hold out for an even better deal as injuries mount and other teams realize what pieces will and won't work in their rotations. And they're going to sit there and say, well, shoot, we thought we could get Jae for something small, but now the Suns are winning and he's not like a locker room distraction because he's not even with the team. So they can say, you know what? No, you want him. You got to really pay up to come get him now.
Yep. So the Suns are the price is going up for the Suns to trade Jae. They'd rather just let him sit out. I totally agree. Now, will that price end up with something of true value for the Suns? That's still debatable. He's still just a role player, and trading one role player, trading two role players. I mean, really, what was our big package over the summer? Jae Crowder and Dario Saric. They've combined for 2 minutes of play this year for a 4-and-1 Suns team. So I think that package value has gone down a bit. But there will be more teams. Teams still could use Jae Crowder and Dario Saric. So we'll see what happens. But I get it with the waiting game. You don't need to have made the trade to win the regular season. The Suns are proving that. You need to make the trade to set up for the playoffs, which is still 80 games away.
What's the combined salaries? About 19 million, just under 20, I think.
Yeah,
that's a sizable trade chip.
That's a Jordan Clarkson 1 year. That's a Bojan Bogdanovic 1 year. That's a good supporting. That's a Lauri Markkanen if the Jazz keep winning too much. I mean, there is value you can get for teams that want to have two expiring contracts, and you can throw in a draft pick or two and get someone. Yes. So the Suns are doing the right thing. We're seeing it's not the on-court product is not suffering, which was a very good prediction on James Jones's part. That this team is going to win a lot of regular season games. What you're doing is you need to set up for the playoffs, which is 80 games from now. The reason I say 80, even though they've played 5, is they'll have a 2-0 lead in their first round playoff series. It's after that that becomes dicey that you need the better play.
Too soon.
Okay, so we digressed from Book to Jae. I want to give you my thoughts on Devin Booker on his MVP run. What I like to see is the Devin Booker right before Chris Paul showed up. His last year without a Ricky Rubio and then the first year with a Ricky Rubio. If you guys remember, Devin Booker actually did regularly drive into traffic to get layups and draw fouls. If you remember that Devin Booker, and he passed a lot. That Devin Booker was a 6 assists a game, 7 free throws a game guy. And then when Chris Paul came in, he became the true shooting guard for a couple of years, where he still had the same 26 points a game, 25 points a game, but his assists went down into the 4s range from the 6s range, right? So he got 6.8 and 6.5 assists his last 2 seasons before Chris Paul showed up. And he had, I'm looking it up right here, 7.1 and 7.3 free throws a game. Then those went down to the 4 range and the 6 range or 5 range because he was being more of a catch and shooter. And if you guys remember last year, Devin Booker led the league in points per touch. Yes, this is what you think it is.
Dang, stat me.
Booker led the league in points per touch last year. You know why? Because he was only 88th in touches a game. All NBA first team, 88th in the league in touches per game. But when he did get the ball, he finished really well. So I think Devin Booker now is transitioning back into more of an on-ball guy, but it's not the first time in his career. He's just combining that MVP level play with getting to the hoop, drawing fouls, and making passes to set his team up. So I do think he's going to be in the MVP conversation all year, not just toward the end of the year this time. He's not going to win over Giannis. I'm not being silly. He's not going to win over Jokic. Is not going to win another MVP, but you know who will? Maybe is Giannis. Or you know what? I actually think a Jason Tatum would get it over Devin Booker simply because of the national media, East Coast bias, all that stuff. I don't think Jason Tatum's a better player, but I think he's probably got a better chance to win. Same reason Marcus Smart won Defensive Player of the Year over Mikal Bridges. But Booker will be top 5 in the MVP conversation all year because he's really brought the best of pre-Chris Paul Booker and with Chris Paul Booker into one player this year, and it's so fun to watch.
And you know what's really interesting about this season, specifically for Book, is Chris Paul's kind of taken a step back so far, and if that continues, like CP kind of held back a lot of those conversations early on because is it Book's team? Is it Chris's team? That was like a narrative that was built through the media for a while when clearly last season it was Book's team. But now that Booker is the clear alpha on the team, it feels like, I think that'll help his MVP case a lot early on, which he didn't have that early last season. And, you know, the team got off to that slow start. And, you know, I've just been thinking about like what it's going to take for him to win an MVP. And I think, you know, being the clear number one on the best team,
sure,
which he was last year, got him 4th. So if he can start to build that early and carry that momentum over and play like a better version of himself on both ends, like I think he has a legit chance to finish in the top 3. Giannis, the numbers he's putting up already are just insane, like you mentioned. So it's going to be tough to top that. But I think he's going to have a little bit of an easier path, I feel like, this year than he did last year, just due to the unfortunate media narratives that were built, you know, kind of hyping up CP last year.
Yeah, that's true. He doesn't have to compete with CP for those MVP votes. That's a very good point. The last 2 years he's had to worry about that. CP3 is not going to be in your MVP conversation again this year. He's probably not going to be an all-star. But definitely so Booker doesn't have to compete. That's true. But I still worry even John Morant's going to get more MVP votes ultimately. Jake, you have any thoughts on MVP Booker?
Well, just that I love watching him play. You know, the Suns Jam guys, I mean, you know, they always ask for their Jam star of the game after every game. And with the exception of last night, it's been Booker for me the entire way through. I mean, this is – I think there was a lot of coming into the season. We knew Booker was good. We hoped he improved a little over the offseason, put on 10 pounds of muscle, you know, worked on that three-point shot, you know, all the little things you always hope for and want to read about. But he has elevated his game, leadership, shooting splits. His defense is still there. He's playing heavy minutes in some games too. And I think Voida threw down the shooting splits over 40% from 3. Oh, that is primetime Booker. And it's so amazing to see because I've noticed kind of 2 things with Jock and DA especially is that, yeah, they can both shoot the 3. Thankfully, I wish Jock probably wouldn't do it as much, and I wish Ayton might try another shot.
Jock can shoot the 3.
Yeah, Jock
can
shoot
just
the
can't
3.
Make him yet.
I feel like Ayton could make it more, and maybe he gets one more attempt. But have you guys noticed that as I felt like it was kind of CP3 and Booker driving, doing mid-range game stuff a lot, especially towards the end of last season and in the playoffs. They're getting the ball inside, but not just to Ayton, into Jock too, who I thought was going to play that Frank Kaminsky role of top of the key, shoot a 3, otherwise you pass it off, and that's all you do on offense. You don't really get a chance to post up. Jock is posting players up. Ayton is driving and backing down people and then taking in the entry pass, and then it's just a little hook or a jumper. Sometimes he's really got to stop with that fadeaway jumper. It's not necessary. Just go through them, get the foul, get some more free throws. But seeing that more teams will collapse, and that's why I'm not worried about players like Cam Johnson yet. I mean, I want him to stay on the floor more, but some people have said, oh, you know, his stats aren't there yet.
You mean you want him to stay in the lineup more?
Well, that too, yes.
You don't want him on the floor more.
No, not on the floor. Yeah, like, gosh, yesterday, I've never seen so many people get hit in the face or their legs taken out from under them as I had in last night's game. But Booker shooting a higher percentage 3, Paul can hit him. We saw him in the Warriors game, although his shooting has looked rough otherwise besides the Warriors game. But Cam Johnson is going to heat up as soon as defenses go, we can't keep allowing Jock Landale and DA to just massacre us in the post. So they'll start to collapse. Cam Johnson open threes, Booker open threes, and it's going to be a pick your poison the whole time.
That's a really good point. That's really nice. One thing that DeAndre Ayton does for the Suns, the reason DeAndre Ayton is such a difference maker as the starting center for the Suns, getting the most minutes, this is why he plays so many minutes and the rest of the guys just don't, is because he sucks in that defense. He's been doing it since he was a rookie. He forces the defense to try to stop that on the pick and roll to defend. That's what opened up Booker and Chris Paul and all that. Suns are mid-range mavens because DA sucks in the defense. If Jock Landale can also do that from the second unit, that just keeps it going all day long. Jonas Valanciunas, I was worried in the second half of the Friday night game when Ayton went down, Jonas was just going to eat the Suns alive. He did it in the playoffs last year, even with Ayton in there. He just keeps his hands as high as possible. He's so big, so tall. He can dunk without leaving the ground, it looked like he could anyway. That's the guy I thought he was going to dominate. But what the Suns did is they forced him, to actually play defense in the post and get him switched off of things, and they made him less of a factor. He did not make that much of a difference, Valanciunas, because Landale was able to play big. And then offensively, they had to respect both Landale and Bismack, although they didn't respect them as much as they would have DA, because those guys got lob dunks. I mean, how many lob dunks did Landale and Biz get last night?
Yeah, no,
they would not have been allowed to get those.
Putting Jonas in the pick and roll was a great call by Monty. They attacked that over and over, and when him and Alvarado are your two primary defenders, just go at that every single time, and you're going to get a mismatch somewhere.
What you didn't get was a lot of help defense underneath after getting those two in the pick and roll, like the Pelicans provided in the playoffs last year, because they knew DA was going to dive.
Herb Jones is gone. If they had Herb, it might have been a different story. It
might have been a different story. They were missing some people, but some of it is scheme, and some of it's probably just early season. They didn't have the depth of the defensive schemes going. But all I'm saying is, if Jock Landale continues to show his ability to score around the rim, he's going to get more defensive attention down there, which opens it up for everybody else. And that means I agree with Jake that it really, really helps that he can play under the basket like that.
Well, you know me, I like a big guy that can put his back to the basket and score up close, and it's something that the modern league has been moving away a little bit from.
Who's still a free agent out there? Let me think.
Well,
who hasn't been signed?
Are you talking about future NBA Hall of Famer Dwight Howard, or somebody else that could play equally as well, Mr. Whiteside?
Yeah, both.
Time to log
Play them together, Twin Towers, T-Wolves style, coming off the bench.
Man, I don't remember if I actually said it on a pod, but I predicted this Timberwolves confusion destruction.
They're doing okay. What are you talking about, confusion destruction?
They're awful.
I almost said they beat the Lakers, but who hasn't?
Right. You can't say beat the Lakers as a feather in anyone's cap. No, that's just tough because Anthony Davis has nowhere to drive. Now you even see Karl Towns has nowhere to drive because Rudy's already there. It's just it's tough for them. It's going to be tough for them all season. They'll probably win 45, 50 games, but they'll go out in the first round. That's just the way it is. But anyway, I'm not going to worry about Minnesota too much.
Starting to feel that itch that you're trying to scratch, Dave, about big men playing together.
Too big? No, let's get off the. Let's focus.
Who put those razor blades in your coffee again, Dave?
Yeah, they are 4-2.
So. Thank you. Okay, yes.
But they do have. They have. I don't view them as.
Who have they beaten?
I have no idea.
Okay. Yeah, they'd be beating the Lakers.
Yeah. But yeah, they have some issues though for sure. In the playoffs, they're going to be exposed. That's all that matters. But I do think you got to give them a little more credit than saying they're awful, Dave. They're 4-2.
They're awful.
Let's see. Okay, they beat the Lakers. Oh, okay, Spurs, and then they lost to the Spurs, and then they beat the Thunder. They lost to the Jazz.
You going to take it back yet?
Okay, I take it back.
Take it back?
I'm taking
Their
it back.
opponents this year.
I want that schedule.
Then the Thunder, the Jazz, the Spurs, and the Lakers, and they play the Spurs next. Let's see on Tuesday how effective they are because they play the Suns on Tuesday night. That's their first difficult game of the season.
If we don't have Ayton, that could be an interesting game to watch. We might see a little Dario.
We're going to see some jock itch, that's for sure. All right, so let's see. What else do we want to talk about this current team? What else has stood out to you guys? Any other comments on what stood out to you? Cameron Johnson, can you please stop going down in a pile of bodies? This is not football. It seems like he's getting hurt every freaking time.
Do you guys
He
remember
drives.
Late career Grant Hill on the Suns? How often that dude was on the deck? That's
Right.
what it reminds me of. Except that dude was like a dinosaur by then, so it was even more scary every time he fell. This time it's, Cam. I don't know. It seems like his body has like a magnet to the ground at this point, so he's got to stop.
It's I always got nervous because I still remember when the Suns drafted him, and if you were a fan like me, when they announced that they were drafting Cam Johnson, you said, who? And then the earliest report came out, said, oh, this guy that's getting surgery on his hips. And you're like, how old is he? But yeah, I mean, so like every time I see him go down and he kind of reaches for something, I'm like, there goes his hips. There goes his hips. That's exactly
well, he's
what
getting
we
a
do.
lot of like deep thigh bruises and stuff like that. Like I haven't seen so many there. I don't.
He's going to take over that Shaquille
he's a
O'Neal
wreck.
like icy hot commercial ad if he keeps this up. I mean, it's going to be a nightly regimen for that guy. Yeah, I mean, he needs to work with his twin a little bit more. Mikhail flails a little bit on defense, but he gets blocks. He doesn't go down.
There was a play Mikhail described. If you guys remember, the Suns got like a 4-on-1, 4-on-2 breakaway with all of like Mikhail, Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and Cam Johnson trailing, diving down the middle. And Mikhail didn't pass to either Booker or Chris Paul. He instead waited and hesitated a little bit until Cam Johnson flashed into the picture and then caught the ball and drove for the dunk. And Mikhail was asked about that later. He's like, yeah, man, those guys, they really wanted the pass, but I had to look for my twin. I had to look out of the corner of my eye for my twin and wait for him to catch up, and then he just flew past. It was great. So those guys are back to having fun. There was comments that the Suns weren't having fun this year. They weren't having as much fun. Well, you know what? Winning creates fun. And they're having a lot of fun now. They love each other. Mikhail also said that bench unit is really tight. They're really close together. All they want to do is hustle for each other. Nobody cares about who takes the shot. It's really, really fun. Bismack Biyombo says the same thing, and he's hardly played. I mean, he got a lot of minutes Friday night, but he's hardly played. These guys are all on each other's. They got each other's back, and it's really fun at this point to watch because they're creating these wins, and then they're celebrating them.
Well, and I think what's interesting about that is when I think of some of the great players like Jordan and Kobe, for example, the reputations of them about being teammates were never warm and cuddly. They'll bring you under their arm. It was just like, oh, no, he goes and he sits in the corner and thinks about how he's going to drop another 30 on you. Or if you're Jordan, he punches you like a Draymond Green, might punch out a teammate. But,
And you always have a puncher's chance with Draymond.
Exactly. But so, when I kind of read, and I'm not an expert, right? But, you hear the reputation about CP3. He can get on guys almost too much sometimes. And Booker seems like he'd be a friendly guy with his teammates, but, maybe like you don't see the same kind of camaraderie as you see with like a Mikhail. And and some of the like campaign. And I think that is the kind of glue that keeps a lot of those guys together, because I was worried a little bit about DeAndre Ayton, for example, but when you work with it, and we all work with people that are like this, like a Mikal Bridges type person, that you can come back from, a meeting and just be really frustrated at work. And then there's that Mikal Bridges guy that walks in and goes, hey man, what's up? You want to go out for beers after work? It's going to be a good time. And you're like, Mikhail, all right, yeah, let's do it. Like he's that guy that like picks you back up and lets you know, like, oh hey, you know what, it's gonna be fine. And you see that with campaign. You still kind of see that as they're kind of dancing, warming up. Cam Johnson likes to get in on it, and even Mr. Stoic Bismack Biyombo, who looks like he would hate you if he just stared across the court from you. But then all of a sudden he'll like watch those guys and he'll start cracking a smile, and you're like, Busy's having fun.
Hey man, Biz is the town elder. Yeah. He's cool. He's always ready. But man, anytime he actually speaks, he talks like a philosopher. He's giving advice, even if he's just saying hello to you. He did some media last night, and we asked him, how can you be like from going from nothing to 30 minutes? How can you have so much energy? And he's just like, look, you just got to be ready. You got to be ready all the time. And I found out I can't be stressed about whether I'm playing or not, because he's like, I've gone through a lot. He lost his father a year ago. He took half the season off just to mourn his father, and then he came back to play. He's like, I came back to this team because I like this team. I feel like we got a chance to win a championship, and I don't care if I go 30 minutes one game and no minutes the next. It's just about being with these guys and feeling good, and he loves it. So he's a great guy to have to join the team. And I think one thing James Jones does a really good job of that we don't see, so we can't give him enough credit, is the personalities of the guys who are on the team. Somebody mentioned early in the chat that we should pick up that Josh Primo who just got released by the San Antonio Spurs. Talent-wise, sure. But if he's dealing with something that got him released from the Spurs after they guaranteed a $4 million third year contract to him, maybe he needs to figure out his issues before he joins the Suns, because you don't want somebody like that messing up the team chemistry. There's always good chemistry on this team. And that probably also explains why the Suns said, Jay, it's okay to stay home.
Well, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but you guys think that there's something else going on there, right? I mean, teams don't let interesting prospects just walk away and say, hey, we'll pay you for the next 2 years, $4 million. I mean, Ben Simmons, obviously more talented, but mental health problems, that's okay. Go, work with the team doctors, go work with your own doctor, get your head right. But we'll be here when you come back. They don't release you. And so I'm wondering if there's something else that's going to come out.
Yeah, I think it's not just this quiet. You're exactly right, Jake. Thank you. The league, we don't know the details behind Josh Primo's release, but there had to be something egregious that made it not unsafe, because I don't want to make it sound like he's dangerous, but uncomfortable for the team to live through right now. Somebody you deal with their mental health issues. Kevin Love has talked about it for years. He's got, depression issues and stuff. He's totally okay with it. And his team keeps him, you don't let somebody go just because, but if that turns into some kind of violence, that turns into some kind of discomfort, distrust, that's when you let the guy go. And as the Spurs said, we hope it's better for him and for us in the long run. And if he figures stuff out, awesome. But if he doesn't, obviously he did something that was egregious, and you don't bring him onto your team immediately. You just don't.
Mm-hmm. I do want to shout out, because it did actually make me laugh pretty good. When Darth said that he's the Mikal Bridges at his work, Fabio said he's the Jae Crowder at his work.
Yeah.
So, that was pretty good.
Hey, let's talk about Suns ownership. So we haven't heard anything specifically other than a little rumor here, a little rumor there on who might be bidding, who might be putting together a bid. What we have heard, I've heard a couple of things, not personally, only from trusted, like public sources that anybody could see. I've heard that Sarver might actually, the reason the Suns might get the highest valuation ever for an NBA team in the $4 billion range is that Sarver actually has the right to sell his and only 40% of the Suns. So what that means, you got to wrap your head around. A potential owner would not have to actually bid a whole $4 million on a $4 billion on a $4 billion valuation. All they have to bid is Sarver's portion and the Dial Corp portion, which is another 5%. So 40% of the Suns. They'd only have to bid up to $1.5–2 million of their own money, and the rest of the Suns owners just stay in place. So it's possible cheap? That's how the valuation will be that high.
Yeah, exactly.
What's that?
GoFundMe. Start it right now. Let's do it.
I didn't realize it was that cheap. So I think I'm in. I'm back in.
Well, I mean, $1.5–2 billion is a lot cheaper than $4 billion, right? So, I mean, obviously it still requires billionaires, but the reason that's just usually all the minority owners sign something in their contract saying that they'll go what they, if the majority controlling owner sells his shares or her shares, then everyone else sells automatically too, and the whole team is sold as a complete package, like the Clippers, although they only had the one owner, Donald Sterling. But you've got the Timberwolves and other sales like that. The Suns are one of the few, if only, where the minority owners, minority partners, do not have that automatic tag along. It's called a tag along clause, where if the controlling person sells their shares, they all go along, and that's a big valuation. So it could be that Sarver only sells his and the Dial Corp's portion, which is 40%, which then somebody's going to bid $1.5 million, $2 billion for that. That's how the valuation is going to go into the 4 to 5, but it won't actually necessarily be that much cash actually transacting. Still, new controlling owner. So that even makes it so that you could have one controlling owner or whatever. There are rumors that there aren't any rumors of any big dollar owners yet, but there's a bunch of people who want to grab coattails, aren't there? Charles Barkley said, hey, if Obama's part of it, I'll be part of it. Someone Bill Simmons mentioning that Barack Obama is thinking about putting a couple of dollars into this thing for the Phoenix Suns. He's not a billionaire, but he might buy in as a minority owner. What do you guys think of the potential for like Shaquille O'Neal, Charles Barkley, Barack Obama being minority partners for the Suns in the next iteration?
You want to go first, Zona?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't really care about like who specifically buys. Like, I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, this name is like flashy, like great. Like I just want someone that's going to be invested in the Suns and making them better, spending money. So if that's one of them, then by all means, like go for it. I think just the majority owner, like I think whoever it is will probably try to bring on like some familiar face like that or two, just former player, whether it's like Obama or someone that they can like use to like start to create that kind of image, I guess, to help promote the team and just like get fans excited. So I think that's something we could see paired along with whatever purchase is made. But yeah, I don't really have any strong opinions on that either way. I think it's, what I just want whoever buys the team, just please put Marion and Sotomayor in the Ring of Honor. Get that over with. That's
be the first two moves. That and making these throwback Sunburst jerseys permanent.
Yes.
Those three moves. Boom.
Yeah.
Done.
No, I think the only thing I'm concerned about with is how many kind of celebrities and former sports legends and kind of folks we get into the ownership group, because then I'd worry it could become a little bit of a circus if Shaq and Chuck and Obama and somebody else all own it, and you see Shaq and Chuck like racing each other and wrestling around on like NBA on TNT or something like that, and they're like, the Suns owners are fighting. Call me a man of simple taste. Just bring in a billionaire who just really thinks that it's a cool thing to own and who wants to invest in the area, the team, the legacy, and then you can still have Larry Fitzgerald buy in, kind of like he already is, and some of those guys.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
They get to do
Larry's
the media
already
portions.
a minority owner that won't tag along, so he'll actually stay a minority owner.
Mm-hmm.
You add in these other guys. Look, man, how much actual influence has Grant Hill had on the Atlanta Hawks? He's a minority owner of the Hawks. How much actual influence has Dwayne Wade had on the Utah Jazz? Maybe a little bit, but probably not like dominating the headlines. What it can get you is a little bit more positive press, because those guys are respected and people around them are going to want to respect what they're associated with. So that can get you more positive press. Charles Barkley on TNT. We might actually get more positive Suns coverage on TNT. I mean, there's a benefit there. But Barkley's funny. He's like, he doesn't want to give some of his hard-earned money just to put slap his name on a limited partnership that has 20 names on it. But if Obama bought in, maybe he would. So I think a lot of this is just kind of tag-alongs. But if Shaq and Charles are part owners of the Suns, you'll hear them being predicted for championships on TNT. That's your best value out of the whole thing.
I will say I would kind of wrong. Are we sure that's a good thing?
What's that?
So with how often they're wrong, are we sure that's a good thing?
No, just the press.
No, I know.
And then
I
that
know, I
gets
know what
more
you're
awards
saying.
and all that. It doesn't mean the Suns will win any more
The
games.
Chuck's guarantees are just, it feels like they always backfire. So,
Well, we
That'd be
might
stuff
stop
like
hearing Shaq saying the Lakers are going to make the playoffs and be a contender every time they lose a game. He might actually get off that nut and move over to, predicting Suns success.
The big Shaq diss. No, I would get a kick out of if Shaq was involved, just the amount of his ads that would be plastered around the arena, just like as you're getting ready to leave the arena, it'd be like, do you have the General's car insurance? When you go into the bathroom, it's like, oh, do you use Gold Bond powder in there? And, you step back out and it's,
The
icy
General
hot.
will be a sponsor.
It would just be, I feel like everything everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Mike B asking about why not have a bunch of former Suns players own the team. Yeah, they don't all have money. So I don't know how much money KJ or Thunder Dan have or anything like that. I personally don't want to be associated with KJ in an ownership group, but that's just a personal opinion. He's got a lot of stuff he's done off court that isn't as well regarded as his on court stuff.
He was courtside for the Warriors game, I think.
He was there.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
throwback night, sunburst night. That was back when his jerseys he was in those jerseys. All right, let's close this out. We got we're an hour 10 in. The coming next 5 games. They're home versus Houston, home versus the Wolves, who we already talked about, and then a 2-parter, Portland and Portland both at home next weekend, and then at Philly. Philly just finally won a game, or won a convincing game the other night. What do you think the Suns are going to do in these next 5 games? Let's just do an early prediction. Zona, what do you think?
So I think it's going to be another 4-1 stretch. I think their loss is going to come to the Timberwolves, surprisingly enough. That's going to be that weird game they drop. And then Philly is going to be a tough one, but they always seem to step their game up, especially Book against that team. And that's on the road, and he cooks them in Philly. So that's a game I'm looking forward to a lot. Houston's just a young team that I think they should, they might put up a fight and try to play up to the competition and scare them a little bit. But fourth quarter minutes, Suns will close it out. Portland games without Dame, they should take care of. So not too worried about that. But I think one of the losses, if they do go 4-1, it's the loss is either going to be at Philly or against Minnesota. So that's my take.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think what's good about the team too is that so far we've been beating very quality teams that a lot of people thought were going to be, they're going to be deep playoff run type stuff. So I think 4-1 as well. I don't think we're going to overlook, the Houston games, for example. But I think it would be T-Wolves or Sixers. I think we beat the Sixers. So I would, I'm going to join Zona and say it's T-Wolves, the 2 bigs, Dave. It's the modern NBA. You got to be able to go up against 2 bigs.
Modern.
The 90s are back. They're here to stay. Sunburst jerseys. Let's see it. Let's hear it.
Darth Voida predicts 3-1-1 just to get me to say it, I think, out loud, which is ties are impossible in the NBA. Whatever, dude.
So we got you to say it.
You did get me to say it. We got a bunch of 4-1 predictions, 5-0, a 3-2. I'm going to predict 5-0. I think the Suns are just in that roll mode already. They're already in the rolling mode, unless they get even a bigger injury. But they've proven they can absorb not having DA when they've got a really deep center crew. And I'm just not going to be the bad karma guy and predict any other injuries. So I'm going to assume everybody's fine, and the Suns are going to go 5-0 in this next 5 games. 4-1 Go Bear madness. I think definitely Suns will be doing pretty well. And the Blazers, even if they get Dame back, it took 41 points and being at home for Portland to beat the Suns in overtime by 2 when Jock Landale missed a tying layup that could have put it to second overtime. So I think the Suns are going to be all right. Okay, hottest take so far around the league, non-Phoenix Suns edition. What's your hottest take so far, non-Phoenix Suns edition? Jake.
What was it? The fact that I was staring off into space and couldn't think of something that you were like, let's
absolutely.
Go with that.
I want to put you on the spot.
The hottest take it's not a hot take. I want to say something awful about the Nets. But I'm going to say instead, let's go with the hottest take is going to be that the Miami Heat are going to have a meltdown, and as they're kind of already doing, and they're going to finish in the. I'll still have them in the playoffs, but maybe a 7th or 8th seed, bottom of the.
You
playoff
suggesting maybe Tyler Hero's not a max player?
I'm suggesting that Tyler and Bam and paying Kyle Lowry all that money, and hey, if they want Jae Crowder, we maybe we can make a deal and just take whatever little usefulness that they still have from them. But the Heat, I'd be frustrated if I was a Heat fan. They had a good thing going, and I don't know what happened to them, but it's not working right now.
Keiko says KD will be asked to be traded. Big Warthog, Lakers will start 0-10. Oh my God, the Pelicans fans would just never sleep again. Jazz are good is a comment, Ted Lubin. I think the Jazz are going to come back down to earth. They really don't have difference makers on that team, but I've been very impressed with how hard they're playing. Very happy with them. Good for them. And it also means they're going to be making more trades because there's no way Danny Ainge wants to lose his chances at Wembanyama or Scoot Henderson just because these dudes he thought he was picking off the trash heap are playing well. So that just means more guys available for teams like the Suns who want to power up. Lori predicts Jay goes nowhere. All right, before I give more of these predictions, Zona, what's your hot take around the league?
So I don't know if this is necessarily hot because this is how I felt before the season, and there are some people that disagreed with it, but I think the Cavs are a legit title contender, and they've only reaffirmed that. I think without Garland, they've been playing just as well. Just had an overtime win over the Celtics last night with LeVert and Mitchell both scoring 41. That's just a dangerous team, and I think that it would not shock me at all if they won the East. And the Clippers, on the other hand, I see a lot of people overreacting to their slow start. I think they'll be just fine. They're 2-3 right now. Lost to the Thunder a couple of times, which is a little troublesome there. But I think they're just a team trying to figure it out.
And they lost to the bad vibe Suns. I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly. So they're screwed. But no, I'm kidding. They'll be fine. I don't know. Every season there's a team that starts a little slow and then they end up just fine. As we saw with the Suns last year. I don't think it'll be to that extent with the Clippers, but they'll probably end up in the top 4, top 5 in the standings when it's all said and done.
My big surprise and my hot take is I've already said a few of them, like Minnesota isn't as good as people thought they would be. I couldn't understand why so many people are happy with them. My hot take is I think the New Orleans Pelicans are fighting for home court advantage this year. That's my hot take. They look really good. Friday night they still really were competitive against the Suns. In that same group, almost, because they were missing Dyson Daniels, a rookie, but basically that same group beat Luka's Mavericks on Wednesday or Tuesday. So without that same group, without Brandon Ingram, without Zion Williamson, although they did have Herb Jones in that game. So they're competitive. They're going to stay competitive all year. I think Willie Green has the Pelicans in a really good spot. That's my other hot take. Other than that, the West is going to right itself pretty quickly. I think Portland, Utah, the Spurs, they're all either 5-1 or 4-2. I think they're going to come back down to earth a little bit.
Do you think Christian Wood will continue to be playing at an all-star level with the Mavs?
Here's my prediction on Christian Wood. No on the All-Star game, by the way. He'll be a top 3 finisher for 6th man of the year. But the more time goes, the less Jason Kidd is going to try to play him in the final 5 minutes of close games. Because that dude is a sieve. And he loses all of his aggression in those last 5 minutes. He was terrible when they lost to the Pelicans the other night. And I think Christian Wood, Jason Kidd found a great role for Christian Wood. He's going to be a threat all year long. He's kind of like the 6'10" version of Jordan Clarkson. That's my take.
That's fair.
All right, folks, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. This has been the Sun Solar Panel. Do me a favor before you leave right now. You're on the YouTube channel. If you're here with us live, hit that thumbs up button. If you're watching the YouTube show later on, hit that thumbs up button, please. It helps the algorithms and gets the show in front of other people that might have missed it live. So really get that thumbs up. And if you're listening on the audio version of this, please leave us a 5-star review. Leave us a review of some kind. I think on some of those apps you can leave ratings as well. So definitely Spotify is one of them. Give us a rating. Hopefully it's 5 stars. If you're still here listening right now, it better be, or you shouldn't have been here. And do us those solids, because we don't ask you for money. We give all this stuff to you guys for free every single week. So give back a little bit. We really appreciate you. Thank you. For Zona Hoops, for Fallen Founder, for Dave King, the Solar Panel loves y'all, and we'll see you again next week.
Peace.